So if you are in real estate videography, or if you shoot interiors for interior designers, making cool videos, making social media content, making portfolio pieces, etc., you know that one of the hardest and most frustrating things about it is dealing with natural light. And especially compared to real estate and interior photography, the quality control is just a lot more difficult and a lot more unpredictable. So today I wanted to share with you guys one of my favorite things to do to get significantly more control over the interior lighting, the color accuracy, the light quality, and so on and so forth. So I hope this video helps you. Now, let's get into it. The magic answer to all of these exposure problems is gear, 100%. So if you are doing professional video work and you do not have lighting yet, it is one of the best investments, and it is something that can improve literally every single project you do from here on out. So the light we're going to be using today, which I highly recommend, is the Aputure 300D. So they do have a newer version that I will recommend in the links down below the video that's going to be better for this, but this is what I have. Basically, it's a very high-powered, relatively compact light that is lightweight. It's LED, so it doesn't get hot, and it puts out a ton of power, kind of like a flash. There's lots of cheaper LED lights out there, but most of them are not going to be quite powerful enough to really do this stuff. So 300D minimum I would recommend. C-stand, if you're not already invested in C-stands, these are also one of the best videographer investments. So we got the light, we got the C-stand. That's the bare minimum. You could totally do a lot of this with just that. But as you'll see throughout the video, the C-stand arm with a clamp to attach it to the C-stand is going to come in handy a lot for different setups. And that's going to give us a lot more options of how we can position all this stuff and how we can kind of sneak it into rooms to add the flash into bedrooms without it showing up in the shot. So I don't have any sandbags with me today, but highly recommend get some sandbags for safety, for yourself, for your clients. Put them on the bottom of your C-stand and just save everybody the stress. The last piece of the puzzle is going to be a modifier. And basically all we're trying to do with this setup is create a big but still compact lighting setup that we can bring from room to room, from shot to shot, and set it up to light the scene and make it look a bit better. Also, if you were to use this for your regular setup, I would definitely recommend getting some V-mount batteries and doing all this wirelessly. Then you just have a lot less to worry about, except for charging batteries. And voila! So as you can see, this Aputure light is just like insanely bright. A little bit too bright, huh? Probably one of the few things that can also make a huge impact on your end video production quality, just like adding and shaping your lighting, is adding and shaping your own sound design and getting really good soundtracks that make sense for your project. So if you're wondering where the soundtracks and music come from that are on my channel and on all my client videos, they're all from Epidemic Sound, who I'm very proud to work with, who are also sponsoring this video. Compare this scene to the one before it. This looks a lot more cinematic, like I'm doing an interview video kind of setup. It's off to the side, and the other one just looked really flat and soft and flattering, which is not bad. But music can have that exact same effect. You can make something really chill, really even, easy to watch. You don't really notice the music that much. It's just a nice, enjoyable experience. Or you can totally ramp it up to another level with like drums and an orchestra, or you can just add some really cool music that fits the vibe of whatever story you're telling. And one of my favorite ways to find new music on Epidemic Sound is through their curated playlists. Even though they have a great search engine for finding your new soundtracks quickly, by genre, mood, theme, etc. When you find a good playlist, it makes everything even faster. For this video, I was able to get almost all of the soundtracks from a new playlist I found called Cooking Show, which, fun fact, is the main type of YouTube videos that I actually watch. I'm always in the kitchen trying new stuff. And this one has the perfect balance of music being interesting and memorable while not being overpowering behind the talking points, which can be really hard to find. With Epidemic Sound's extensive and always growing catalog of royalty-free music and sound effects, you'll be sure to find what you need for whatever kind of project you're working on. And to make it even better, it is super affordable. Whether you are just a solo content creator making your own stuff, or if you have a full-on production house. So if you haven't tried Epidemic Sound yet, you're really missing out. There is a link down below this video for a free 30-day trial, zero cost to you, and you can see what you think. So anyways, big thanks to Epidemic Sound for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get these shots. So if you're familiar with interior photography and using flash for composite imaging, for flambient, whatever you want to call it, just like I show in my course, we're pretty much going to be using those exact same techniques. So for a big open area, we're going to create as big and as soft of a light as possible. For small rooms, we're typically going to bounce the flash up kind of behind us as close as possible to the entryway, and that's why we're going to be using that boom arm, just so we can kind of sneak that video light in there, just like we would hold a flash normally. If we got a 2-room scenario, having an extra light is really, really handy, just like in the shot we saw before this, where I had the kitchen and the dining room that's in the distance lit up a little bit. And that covers most scenarios that you're going to be running into on a day-to-day basis. So you're probably wondering, how the heck do you set your ratios to where you get a pretty good inside view and an outside view? Well, basically, you want to set your exposure as bright as you possibly can without completely clipping the view. So it's going to take some trial and error depending on what camera you have, and honestly, unless you have a light that is way more powerful than this, like a 600D or the 1200D or X or whatever it's called, it's not really going to be a foolproof method. So just like always, you got to set your window view as bright as you possibly can without completely blowing it out. And then you've got to add as much light as you possibly can without making it look unnatural. Generally speaking, that's how we're going to do it. And I do all my exposure based off a histogram. If you're using a monitor, or if you have a camera that also has false color, that's an amazing way and a much better way than a histogram to get those percentages accurate. But my camera doesn't have one, so I can't show that example right now. But yeah, that's it for settings. So one big tip for lighting anything is to start off lighting for the wide shots so that you can do multiple angles without having to set up your lights in different positions. So that's what I did for this kitchen. I was able to get 2 of the wide shots, and if I was going back in and doing detail shots, I would have been totally fine to get those 2. So now we're switching this over to light this living room area, and the main thing I'm doing is watching out to make sure I am not casting too much of a shadow. My camera does not have quite enough dynamic range to get that window view, but you do get a lot more accurate colors on the interior stuff. So now that we got these big open room shots, we got to strip down the setup a little bit so that we can go into these interior rooms. So I'm just taking off that modifier. And for these next shots coming up, we're going to flip this upside down to bounce it off of the white ceiling to make sure that our colors are staying as true to life as possible. So first up is this little bathroom. Here's how the shot's coming out with the light added, with no light at all, and with the interior lights as is, trying to balance that color as good as possible. And you'll see why I generally don't like interior lighting. Next up is this office, where we're just gonna do the exact same thing. Honestly, it just makes it look like we have a way better camera, or we have a lot more color information to work with in post. I'll have to do this again with another camera that is 4K 10-bit and has a bit more dynamic range than mine. So you can see a little bit more of the dramatic difference. So now that we've talked about all the normal basic scenarios where we're just filling in the flash on the inside, I think it's time to try something else that's really cool. On top of using a flash to fill in a room that's in the distance, We can also use a flash to put it outside and add some light coming in through the window if there's none available. Like if it's a really cloudy day, if the room just looks super boring and flat, controlling some fake sunlight coming through the window is something that's gonna really add a nice cinematic touch to your video. And depending on how much time you have and how good you are at this stuff, you can really get creative with this. You can add an orange gel over your light to make it look like it's golden hour, the sunset's coming through, or it's in the morning, all sorts of stuff. So especially if you're doing a higher budget production, if you get into all this stuff, no matter what camera you have, you can really make your video footage stand out compared to other people. I can't really think of anybody who I've seen doing this stuff. So we're back at it again with a bedroom. As you can see, it makes a big difference which direction you face the light and how it's gonna fill in the room and create shadows. And for this one, we're gonna add a light coming in from the outside because there's no light on this side of the house, just for fun. I didn't try too hard on this, but you could get as creative and specific as you want with shaping that light. I just wanted to make that back corner look a little bit more bright and sunny. Now we're on to the primary master bedroom, doing the same technique, just like we would a flash. If you're using a gimbal to get your shots, the boom arm is a necessity, as you can see. But for most of these shots, I did zoom in a little bit at 20 millimeters to give me a little bit more room to avoid the C-stand and the lighting in the shots. This is a pretty dark room and the overhead lights were just really yellow, so in order to avoid that, we added the light, and honestly it kind of makes it look like a HDR shot or something. I think it just really enhances that color accuracy and basically has the same effect of using flash for photography, which is pretty cool. And yes, there's me in the mirror. So is it worth it? You tell me. I think it really depends on the budget of the project you're working on, and if the price is right, just like for most types of work, especially I think if you are working for an interior designer or if you're filming products that need to look color accurate for selling online and stuff like that, I think it's going to pay off for your client big time. So definitely something to try out and think about. And cool thing I want to mention real quick, if you don't have any light gear already, I highly suggest renting it before you buy, and I will link down below a code for $25 off any rental. For special projects, it's definitely worth renting special equipment. All right guys, that's about it for this video. I hope this helps you. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments, and once again, I will link down gear and some newer gear compared to my stuff. Big thanks once again to Epidemic Sound for sponsoring this video. If you haven't signed up yet and tried it at least already, you're missing out. But anyways, let me know in the comments if you got any questions about this stuff, if you want to see any more tutorials on this specifically. And as always, I look forward to seeing all of y'all in the next video. Peace.